Who likes the older Glycine Combat SUBs? But who likes the Combat SUBs under the Invicta ownership? Yay! I thought so. You see, this is a theme that we need to clarify today, once and for all. So the point of today's video is to settle and to understand what is the value proposition of the Glycine Combat SUB as a diver, and to compare it with the newer 2020 model to see if the Invicta effect had a positive or a negative impact on the quality of this sub. And knowing the rise of micro brands and the increase in price of affordable brands like Seiko, there are still underrated watchmakers with heritage, like Glycine, that offers today possibly the best value for money, with their practical Combat SUB, offering us an entire collection to choose from. So let's deep dive into this icon. Glycine has perfected this model in years. A simple but an effective design with a rotating bezel, a depth rating of 200 meters and a reliable movement. Price-wise starting from $170 for quads until $500 for automatic divers, even GMTs. Besides that, the Combat SUB comes in various sizes, colors and dial designs. The sizes proposed by Glycine are from 42 until 48 mm. Interesting to know, soon the Combat SUB will be sized down to a 36 mm case in 2021, but my assumption is that this one will be exclusively made for ladies, like the Lady Combat SUB or the Combat Lady SUB made in pearl dials and so on. The same happened for the Airman collection. However, the materials proposed for the subs are offered from stainless steel on polished and brushed finishes to PVD coating or even bronze. The main reason of today's video is to understand if the 2020 models are increased or decreased in quality compared to the pre-Invicta models. As we know, Invicta are known for making homages of Rolex copies or ridiculously large watches. So people got scared that Glycine will be transformed into something scary in time. And to be honest, so far the results are quite good. Glycine showing us that they are heading into the right direction, releasing interesting Airmans and Combat SUBs for the past 3 years. But better, let's look at these two combat divers, the pre and the post Invicta, to understand if the quality is kept or possibly improved. So today we are looking at the Glycine GL269. This is a newer model launched in 2020 versus the iconic stainless steel model GL0249 on a bracelet. As specifications, they both measure a case diameter of 42 mm, a lug to lug of 50 mm, a lug width of 22 mm, and a thickness including the crystal of 10.5 mm. Indeed, really thin. They both have sapphire crystals and a rotating bezel of 60 clicks and an aluminium insert. A water resistance of 200 meters and a reliable movement. The caliber GL224 that can be a ETA 2824 or a Selita based with a 40 hours power reserve. The case design, the chassis of this Combat SUB is one of my favorites. It's not the smallest case, but definitely one of the thinnest, diverse and comfortable I've ever owned. Important to know, most of the time the width of the watch determines us to say it's big or not, but in reality the dial size and the lug to lug width are the ones to define these parameters. Luckily the Combat SUB design has the lugs that curves dramatically towards the ends, helping the watch to hug better the wrist. As you can see, it stays really flat on the wrist. It's discreet, solid, reliable and good looking. What can you wish more from a Swiss diver? Still, in this context, I'm using a 22mm cognac strap from my partners from 7 Friends and Watches, a full grain leather strap, durable and extremely comfortable, that complements the orange accents of the watch pretty well. And if you like this video so far, please consider subscribing for future creative updates. Thank you. But getting back to our watches, they both have the same case shape with small differences that can be spotted from the side. The older model having drilled lugs, but on the 2020 version, the ends of the crown guards are a bit narrower, I assume to obtain a better grip for the crown. And I do like a lot the dramatic arches that creates the crown guards, keeping the same pattern as the curved ends of the lugs, ensuring the maximum comfort needed on the wrist. Towards the end of the case, they both have the same vintage flat lug spacing that hosts better foreign straps, even NATOs, without the need of curved spring bars. The crown has the same size and the same winding action. The only differentiator besides the PVD coating is the newer logo instead of the older bird logo, which in fact the newer logo proposed that looks like a castle. It's a modern iteration of the initial Glycine logo that was used until years 2000 if I'm not mistaken. The case back has the same engraving. The embossed pattern seems to be the same except for the PVD layers of the black one. And dial-wise, these two combat subs display different themes. If the older GL249 keeps the technical field watch dial with military 24-hour numerals, the vintage combat sub borrows iconic dial elements from the earlier subs, with a grain pattern, the maximized triangle at 12 o'clock, and the gold tones of the minute chapter ring and the hands. Even so, I find the vintage sub a good looking watch with the big logo displayed and the date window at 4 o'clock. Still, on the macro level, we can spot that the GL249 is slightly better made, being more carefully printed and painted. And as you can see, the powder paint looks very well on the hands, where the GL269 seems to have a printed dial with embossed painted markers. Here we can spot the outline of the date being rounded on the corners, where the embossed date is squared, leaving those corners, well, empty. The bezel rotating features seem to be improved on the latest model, the earlier collections having a lacquered aluminum insert that felt a bit cheap, where the vintage 2020 model has slightly matted coating on the bezel. Also, the numerals and the markers on the bezel seem to be better refined. The action, as I said, is more refined, I'd say smoother on the latest model, but in the same time firm and exact, even though we are experiencing a 60-click rotating bezel. On the lume department, the combat subs are known for good quality lume. In this case, both are bright, even though the indexes are painted and not applied. I also had the bronze version that had a torch even during the day. The lume was insane on that specific model. Another differentiator, the rubber strap of the vintage combat sub is extremely well made. It's thin, very comfortable. Also, design wise, it looks really well with that embossed logo. Where the metal bracelet is decent, still due to the bracelet wideness without taper, keeps the watch fixed on the wrist. But all in all, it complements the watch case very well. As for the quality level, I would say they're both excellent wristwatches. The winding action, the bezel rotation, the finishing, the movement overall provides a solid feel that you own a mid-luxury watch. And in my focus for 2021, I would add the following models to my collection. The Coffee GMT that is already sold out in limited numbers on drop. Also the 46mm, the blue sub. The classic 0076 but with drill lugs, and the dressy Combat 6 in bronze with a red dial. I think these are amazing options for 2021. And to conclude, I think the Glycine Combat SUB is an amazing Swiss-made diver and possibly the best option for the $300–500 price range. And to clarify the myth, the newer versions under the Invicta ownership, I would say they are better refined divers than the previous collections. And besides that, there is a massive collection from where to choose from, and I consider the Glycine Combat SUB one of the most playful, reliable, qualitative models out there in 2021. And certainly, the Combat SUB qualifies as the 17th Brave Beater on the channel, being a solid option for any collector, where you can successfully replace your SKX with a Swiss-made piece. So, hope you liked this comparative video. The Glycine Combat SUB shows us that the quality and the heritage does not come necessarily with a big price tag. And if you want to be part of the channel, please subscribe for future creative updates, because I am here weekly posting new updates. And until next time, be brave but stay safe.